Action.
Hello and welcome to A Gypsy's Kiss, the vlog. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Stick with us for a couple of seconds and we'll talk about those infamous Forrest Fenn 6 answers. And we're back with a lower third.
Yay! So, notifications have gone out, so people should be joining us
Good.
momentarily.
The minute they get in, we need to do a volume, an audio check.
And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and share the stream.
Okay.
And, oh, Man in the Barn is here. Hello.
Man in the Barn, how's our audio? We've got a new set of microphones. Give me an indication of what you think of audio. Go ahead and talk to it.
I did. Well, I said hello. Hello.
Okay. Tell us too loud, too low, whatever.
C-Monkification is here.
Again, C-Monkification, let us know how our audio is today. We're using a different set of microphones. See if we can resolve the clipping problem. While you're doing that, I'm going to do this. Are you listening to me? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to do housekeeping.
Okay. Housekeeping.
Thank you. So, moderators on board. I see that Man in the Barn is here. Anybody else?
Man in the Barn
Jimmy
is
Fast?
Here. Jimmy Fast is not yet here.
Okay. Well, Man in the Barn will have to handle it on his own.
Says the audio is normal.
Yay, good, all right, we like that. So today we're going to do a presentation, brief presentation followed by open Q&A today. So you can ask any questions on the presentation or off, that's open. And don't forget to take advantage of Super Chat. If you'd like to contribute to us via Super Chat, there's a $ symbol down at the bottom of the chat window. And if you're using your iPhone or iPad or anything like that, you have to scroll down to the bottom. You actually have to scroll your window, not just the chat, down to the bottom to be able to find it. And then you can put in an amount from $0 to $1 billion. And depending on what you enter there, it'll give us a different color and we'll pay attention to your question. And although we're very grateful when you contribute to us, we appreciate it if you're going to contribute. Ask a question so that we can answer it. It's kind of fun for us too. And Shelley has a special request.
Oh, that's right. So,
do you want to wait till we get more people in before you make your special request?
Well, we have quite a few of the regulars,
Oh, okay.
but we could
All
wait. Let's try it now. But anyway,
Go ahead.
yeah. So there is, some of you may know, I have another channel called The Softer Side, and I do relationship coaching for men. One of the things that I would like to do is to get a certification for coaching, life coaching, and there's a course available that I can do online and get certified. So I'm saving up for that, and if I've talked to Toby about this, and for this week he's agreed that any monies that come into our PayPal account that he will donate to me to take these classes. So if you would like to donate to help me save up for the certification to further my education, I would appreciate that, and tell them how to do that.
Go to paypal.me/Gypsy's Kiss, paypal.me/Gypsy's Kiss. It'll take you to our donation page. And so I've agreed to give Shelley all the donations that are made between today and 1 o'clock next Tuesday, the start of our next show. But in addition to that, whatever you donate, I'll match. How's that?
Ooh.
So we can get her off to this certification program. I think it's important for her. I'm a big fan of adult education. Even though all my children went to college, I've always asked them to continue their education in a variety of ways, and they have. I've got a marketing major that works in a high-tech company that took a course in teaching yoga. I've got another one that's also works for a high-tech company, and she does spin classes. She's a certified spin. So they've continued their adult education, and I'm glad that Shelley would like to continue hers, and let's see if we can help her out. So whatever you contribute, I'll match dollar for dollar. How's that?
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You have to buy me dinner tonight, though.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so remember, try to hold your questions for us till the end of the presentation, and once we start, the Q&A session. If you have a question for us, start it with the letters AGK so that we know you're asking us and not just making ourselves part of the conversation. If at any point our audio changes significantly, either gets too loud or too low, let us know, because as I said, we've changed microphones to these lavalier mics first time we used them, and I want to make sure that you guys can hear us. So let me tell you the story, a little bit of the background. Most of you probably already know this, but not everyone who sees this video has the experience that most of you do. So Jenny Kyle is a forum owner. She owns mysteriouswritings.com. She covers a lot of the treasure hunting activities. She's been around for a long time. She has a YouTube channel called Mysterious Writings, where she does a lot of this, and I wouldn't say the same things that we do, but she publishes informative videos. I highly suggest or recommend that you go visit her on YouTube and subscribe to her channel. It's also called, you can find her on under Mysterious Writings. And since 2012, she's made it a point, as with her expertise in journalism, to write for us and ask him 6 questions. They deal with this over email. I don't know that it's ever occurred face to face. This year, she said, she definitely confirmed it was via email. And she asks him 6 questions. They do it sometime, I guess, at the first of the year, and then she always publishes them on February 4th. It turned out that February 4th this year, of course, was Super Bowl Sunday. She asks 6 questions of Forrest Fenn. I get the sense, not based on what I've seen, she tries to ask questions that are informative but not intrusive. So you'll never see her asking the question, say, Forrest, where did you hide the treasure? Her questions are very subtle, and for the most part, he responds to them. I've noticed that over the past years, they've gotten more complex, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and how you can deal with it. But the link to get to her website, where this year's questions have been asked, are here, and we'll also post it into the description box below so that you can go link to that. Okay? Mm-hmm. You ready to rock and roll?
I find it to be really helpful to read the 6 questions, and they are up on her website, and you can read them for the past several years. I believe it was 2013. In one of the quotes we have today, she says 2013. So, yeah, ever since then, and I believe they're fairly informative, and even if they don't tell you anything new about the chase, you can sometimes find the lore contained within the answers to those questions, such as the little girl from India. And if you're wondering where that came from or why that ever started up, then you can find it in the 6 questions.
Right. So now we have a new one. We have a little kid from New York.
Yeah.
Little boy from New York.
East Coast.
Yeah, East Coast little kid. So we're not going to focus as much on the questions because those, as I said, are already written. Jenny has them up on her website. You have the link to that. We're going to take the essence of the question and look at the answer. Now, we went through each one of the responses that Forrest gave. I don't feel like we found a lot of information, new information that we didn't already have, but it was kind of reinforced, and I think that's what's important about it. I'm not certain that he gave us anything that, in our particular case, gets us any closer to finding his treasure. Would you agree?
I think so. I think there's some definitive no, don't do that type things,
Yeah.
which he has provided in the past. No, don't dig up a graveyard. No, it's not under an outhouse. It's not associated with the structure. Knots. He gives us the knots, but he doesn't give us the do.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's the equivalent of it's not in Idaho. One of the things that you'll notice about Jenny's approach to Q&A is very different from the manner in which I've done it over my life. She squeezes a lot into one question. So, for example, and this is not a criticism, this is how she does it, and it's her choice to do it that way. So, what she labels question 1 actually has 8 questions in it. The advantage is you give Forrest lots of options to answer the question. The disadvantage is you give Forrest lots of options. But she seems to get out of him the important ones, and that's why we're not going to focus on the Q&A or the Q part of the Q&A. We're going to focus on the answers. I think he addressed these last 2. Would you be willing to share some of your thoughts during your cherish time by the crackling of the wood? And would you share some of your thoughts on that too? So she started by asking him about his youth and what it felt like to him. And his response was very long. And again, I don't want to end up reading responses here. What I was looking for, what Shelley and I were both looking for, what we decided we'd look for, is the stuff that somehow helped us get us closer to where we think the treasure is. And in the first one, although there were a couple of things he said that I was interested in, his reference to his time that he spent as a childhood at his house and milking the cows and mucking the stalls and things like that. It sounded very 1930s Temple, Texas, which is how a child would have grown up. But growing up that way gives you a completely different perspective on life than had you grown up in a refined house with a swimming pool in the backyard. And I think a lot of that is what established, as psychiatrists say, that most of your personality is developed by the time you reach the age of 7. And so that impacted the development of Fenn's personality and how he saw life after that. So the two things I found were interesting, it was that his reference to, I loved that period. And I'm very envious of that because I don't remember enough of my childhood other than, say, fishing with my father, that I could say I loved that period. I loved fishing with my father. I loved having him around. I loved having my friends around. But I don't recall it with as much specificity as Fenn does. And I think that's a byproduct of the fact that he's thought about this stuff and read about it. Now, I did find a couple of conflicts in here with what was written in The Thrill of the Chase. And when we get to that chapter about the cow, for example, we'll talk a little bit about that. They are, I think, in the grand scheme of things, insignificant, but they are there and we should talk about them. But we'll talk about that in the book club.
All right.
And then, did I say I found it melancholy?
Not yet.
Yeah, I found it very thoughtful and kind of melancholy, kind of sad in a way. He talked about his youth, but it was mostly the period before he turned 10, really. And he talks about it in a very melancholy kind of way. And finishes it with, I could go on with this, Jenny, but already there is too much, and he apologizes for it. And it made me kind of sad to read it that way. The only other thing that I thought was this what I would call a senior citizen quote of "Time waits for no one," because I find myself thinking the same way. It's not waiting for me. I'm closer to death. I'm on the closer side to death than not. And so you start thinking about these things. That time moves on, and one day we're all going to pass, and we're all going to turn to dust, and time will move on.
Well, I think part of this, to me, when you brought up the book, was, okay, so in the book he talks about, I didn't like school, I wasn't good at school, I didn't like sitting there in class, and then I wanted to go outside and I wanted to play. So instead he tells us what he did like. He did like being with the animals, he liked being outdoors, he liked working, being productive. Because I can understand sitting in a classroom that he would feel like he wasn't getting anything done. There was stuff to do. Let me go do it. He felt trapped by that. So here in this place, he's showing us what made him feel more free.
Yeah, sitting in a classroom wasn't getting him any closer to hunting meadowlarks and putting food on the table for his family. And I don't think he could make the connection between sitting in a classroom and doing that.
Right.
I don't think he ever did. Probably didn't realize it until he was in the Air Force and realized there's something to be learned from all of this. So question, by the way, he says in his little story here that every once in a while he goes to Google Earth and takes a look at the house that they grew up in on Main Street in Temple, Texas. And all that's left is the porch and the stairs. So when I pulled up that photo, this is the Google Earth, what do they call it when you're standing in the middle of the street?
Street view.
Street view? Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay, I just want to make sure. And as you can see, there's the front porch, there's the walk. The property has been subdivided. I think this fence here represents part of the property that they once owned. But I've always wondered why it was never rebuilt upon, because it burned down after his father died, which was what, 1985?
Something like that.
Is that right? No, a little bit before that. 87.
87.
And that's 30 years worth of not building on that property, so I'm curious why. Of course,
they still own it, right?
The Google says this picture was taken in 2015. So
it's very small. I mean, what would you put there? It's on a corner, but still, what would you put there?
Another corner house. Another
It's very
house.
small.
They don't own it. They sold the property after his
okay.
death.
Okay. See, it reminds
And
me
it
of
burned a second time.
it reminds me of when we went to visit my mom's house that she grew up in Valley Springs, South Dakota, which is not far from Sioux Falls. It was very much the same. It was the step that was left, and she could, tell us about the house she grew up in and how down the hill there was a creek and where they used to plant their potatoes and bring them up the hill, and she could point things out, but that's all that was left as well was the step, and nobody had ever replaced it.
And if you look at the helicopter view, the drone shot of that area, you can see the cemetery nearby. You can see Lanier School nearby. So it's very much his neighborhood. But he says there's just a couple of pecan trees in the cement deck left.
Yeah, the pecan trees.
Okay, so question number 2. One of the things I want to mention, and I'm going to refer to that video that we made called How to Ask Fenn a Question. One of the things that you'll see on TV as a journalist gets up to ask a question, and say at the White House asking the president some question, they'll start with what we call the preamble. So they establish a context for the questions they're about to answer. Jenny does that with Fenn. My advice to you is don't make it too long. For the guys that that I worked with in Washington, if they made it too long, we used to call it a pre-ramble rather than a preamble. And then she asked some yes/no questions, but they were all kind of the same category. If you remember, starting back in 2015, Fenn said that a couple of searchers had been within 200 feet of the treasure, but didn't know it. They had walked right past it. And then he also said that that people, not implying they were searchers, had been within 500 feet of the treasure. And I think what she wanted to ask here was to get an update on exactly what he meant by that. Has progress been made from the first 2 clues? Because he also said that some searchers have told me where they've been. They've gotten past first 2 clues, but they haven't gone beyond that. Have searchers homed in on other clues, words in the poem, closer than 200 feet. So she was trying to get a sense, I think, because he hasn't changed that story much since 2015 when it first appeared.
13.
13, did I? 13?
2013?
Is that one of the
200 feet?
Yeah. The beginning of 2013. You're right. With Too Far to Walk. Right. So we've always perceived that to be as not very useful. If the searchers had been within 200 feet, I guarantee you we would have gone back to those locations. But we always thought that was, because it was 2013, Too Far to Walk, a book that they hadn't planned was coming out. We always thought that was just good marketing, ways to inspire people that, hey, this thing is very possible. So I think she wanted to address that because I think you've heard me say in the past, it's funny to me that number hasn't changed, that people haven't been within 100 feet or, closer than 200 feet and 500 feet. If you're just a driver, I guess the people are still on that same road, 500 feet. So the first part of this response was interesting to me because it's diametrically opposed to what he's always said in the past. I'm rarely told exactly where people are searching, because he's always made it a point that people write him and tell him where they are, and that's how he made the judgment of where the 200 feet or where the 200 foot number came from and the 500 foot number came from. So I don't know if they were getting closer or not. I guess we have to assume that the 200 foot number is still good inspiration, but I feel like that number is outdated, so we've got to plant some more inspiration here, because I think that's what this is. My gut feeling is that someone will find it this summer. So the phrase gut feeling is interesting to me because the implication is that it's some sort of stomach-based intuition, and it's none of those things. That's not how a gut feeling is defined. And he's a stickler for definitions, if nothing else, sometimes to abuse them. So I think you can look at this 2 ways. It doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you who's close. The implication is that somebody, his gut tells him that somebody is so close to all of this, although he's rarely told exactly where they've been, that somebody is so close to this that it's going to be found this summer. And the first thing that I saw happen on the forums was everybody make plans. As soon as summer comes, oh, I was going to go. There are people moving in March when daylight saving time starts. There are people moving later in March when daylight savings time in Europe starts. So because it's different from ours. So I think, again, the objective here is to plant some form of inspiration into the search, and not necessarily. And the reality is, it doesn't help you in terms of your. And I think you said this earlier, right? There's nothing that we saw in here that says to us that this gets us closer to our search. But it inspires us, because if you look at us, I don't write Fenn about solutions. I write him on occasion. Most of the communication I have with Fenn is more associated with business. Do you want us to stream this? Can I get you to autograph this book, et cetera, et cetera? I don't. As a matter of fact, I can say since 2012, in the 6 years that I've known him, I've never shared a solution with him. But I can look at this and say, well, maybe, and this is what will happen. Maybe he's been looking at our videos and our Cimarron photos and our lander trip, and he says to himself, whoa, that Toby and Shelley, they've got to get to it this summer. So I think you could take that approach. I don't think that's what's happened, but I think you could take that approach, and almost everyone is going to say, well, he saw my blog, he saw my comment on the forum, he saw this, I sent him this solution, et cetera, and they're going to believe that he is, because that's what you want to do. You want to believe that he's talking about you, just like I want to believe he's talking about us. Now, I can guarantee you that's enough enthusiasm on his part for us to head right back up to Cimarron this year, and do. Well, we were kind of planning on that anyway, but But this is kind of the inspiration we need to go like, oh yeah, he's been watching Shelley in those videos, man. That's what he's been doing. So I'm sure everybody will do that.
Now, when I first saw this, the first thing I said was, oh, interesting. And then yesterday I had a meeting with somebody, and she said to me about my the softer side. She said, you are so close. I can sense how close you are to really exploding with this and getting a huge audience and making money. And I, of course, that encouraged me. And I'm like, oh, well, then I really should be focusing on that. And then I got to wondering, okay, what is she trying to sell me?
Exactly.
To get me that one step further that I'm close to, So is she doing it for her own purposes or to encourage me? And you have to wonder that.
Yeah. It's like those emails that we get from the guys that see our channel, and they say, you're one good SEO program away from hitting 1 million subscribers,
Yeah.
And it's only $99 a month, and we'll be able to do this for you. So that's kind of thing. It was you're only one gut feeling away from getting to that treasure. So I had read an article back in Inc. magazine back in 2015. It was written by a woman whose name is Guile Browning. She's the CEO of Emergenetics.com. It's actually international, but she also has a website. And she talked about gut feeling because a lot of business people claim that they use their gut feelings. She analyzed it, comes back, and she says it's the combination of logic and emotion. I used to teach a sales training class called Sentient Selling, and it started out with the idea, and this isn't a hypothesis, this is real, that as humans, we're different from all the other objects in the planet because we are not only sentient, we are simultaneously sentient, we have feelings, and rational. We can experience logic and thinking. And what she says here, that a gut feeling is basically the combination of your logical side, your thinking side, and your feeling or emotional side, and you apply it to a decision. The likelihood that you're actually getting something from your stomach, no matter how big it is that when this happens, you call it intuition. We possess the capacity to feel and the ability to know things without consciously reasoning about them. So when he says it's his gut feeling, it's actually based on the combination of logic, what he knows, what he's learned, what new knowledge he has, and emotion, how he feels about what he's learned. And that could be his gut feeling. I think when he says that it's his gut feeling, he has I don't think, although it is inspirational, motivational in a sense, I don't think he would say it if he wasn't feeling it. I think he would have said it differently if it was all about marketing. I think he would have said something like, there's so many searchers out there. I imagine that one of them will find it this season. It was my gut feeling. Maybe he really has that kind of intuition and gut feeling. That intuition is based on the combination of logic and wisdom, and the wisdom of emotion as well.
Well, I imagine somebody who's flown that many missions would have to have gut feelings and understand how to trust them and when to trust them. So,
you do it. Business people have that experience, all the time. I mean, I made decisions for 30 years that might have been the combination of either illogical or irrational, but my gut told me, like, oh, you should probably do this. I was right about 80% of the time.
Yeah.
You'd come back and you'd go like, oh, no, you shouldn't have done that. Question number 3, she limited it to 1. All of us would like to know more about these detours. She went back to question 1. And I'm not sure, I assume that what's happening here is she's sending him a question, he responds to it, she sends him a second question, because she goes back to question 1 where he talks in that melancholy way about his life and mentions the phrase, what does he say? Detours. I enjoy wondering, in paragraph 1 of that answer 1, he says, I enjoy wondering how my life would be different if I had taken more detours when they were available to me. So I'm going to do my old guy advice here. When you get to be old and you're on the latter half of your life, you basically have lots of choices to make. One of those choices is to focus on the past and wonder why you didn't take the detours that you did, why you didn't stay married to the women that you divorced or they divorced you. I mean, there's a lot, you do have that, but what I'm going to recommend to you is that you don't use your time on that because none of that can change. The only thing that you can do is move forward from here and change your life from this point. And to me, and I got to believe that he does this. I can't believe, it doesn't strike me as Forrest is the kind of guy that's going to spend a lot of time doing this unless someone has asked the question. I would rather ask him the question, so you're at the latter part of your life, you're limited in your mobility. What is it that you want to do from this point? What do you want to be? What do you want to learn? Because I think that's where one should invest their time rather than thinking about, oh man, I wish I had. I liked my life. I'm sorry.
Well, and I look at it like an author because he is a writer and he has probably thought about, okay, what if, and he has even said this out loud to many people, that he wonders what would have happened if instead of calling to be rescued the last time he was shot down, if he had gone through the jungle to the coast on his own.
And taken that 6-month hiatus, basically.
Right. Yeah. What would have happened then? And he thinks about that and the adventures he could have had, but then, of course, he had to go back because he'd made a promise to his family, and they didn't know that if he was alive or dead until he was rescued. Yeah. So he chose to do that. So I'm sure there are things that he wonders about. Now, what if I've gone through this door instead of that door? And then can I follow along the path in a fictional manner? And where would I have ended up at that point? I don't think he wants to redo anything. It's more of just a what if, and like an author who would be writing fiction.
It certainly would make a great conversation. I mean, you and I have had conversations where you've asked those questions. What if you had changed your mind to do this? I've asked you the same thing, and I think they're fun conversations. But once they're over, for me, they're over, and then I move on, and I find the next book or the next microscope or the next whatever I go on to next, as you do too.
I think he does as well.
I agree with that. I think he does. So his answer was again. Rather melancholy. I'm not going to go through it because there was a lot of detail. He wanted to be a golfer. My all-time favorite dream was to be a golfer and play on the PGA Tour. When the reality is, it's like NASCAR driving or flying an aircraft, being a fighter pilot, becoming, a player on the PGA Tour is not the easiest. It's very competitive, and it's certainly not the easiest.
It's like being an Olympic athlete. You have to not only have a talent, but you have to work that talent every day.
Right.
Yeah.
He talks about his retirement after the Air Force, wanted to be a blacksmith, had a forge in his art foundry. He's very experimental. Actually made some iron fixtures, probably like me, made the iron fixtures and then said, okay, what's next? Did that,
Sure.
what's next?
Dabbled.
So
Likes
I
to
feel
dabble.
very connected with him in these things because it sounds a lot like my life where I just experimented with things. And then once I got to a point, made the iron fixture, painted the painting, boom. I'm
Made
done
the
with-
glass necklaces.
Yeah, glass necklace. Exactly, exactly. So I put a fortune into that. Well, not a fortune, but I put a lot of money into making those glass necklaces everybody for Christmas, and then it still sits in my closet. You know, all that stuff sits in my closet. He went to China. The only thing, well, I don't want to say the only thing. The most important thing he got out of it is the Chinese saying, "The tree grows slowly, but the earth is patient." Wanted to be a fishing guide, which I think he did, a welder, which I've wanted to do, archaeologist, I've always so wanted to do. Never had a crazy desire to be a helicopter pilot, but I do fly drones, so maybe there's something there. A literary agent and a museum curator. So, so I thought this line was interesting. My recurring dream is to paint one great painting, write one great country song, and one great book, one great poem, and interview Winston Churchill. And when I was growing up, as I've told you in the past, my father died when I was still very young. So we didn't have a lot of those man-to-man conversations. I was just too young for that, and he had things to do. But I used to overhear him say things. And one of the things I overheard him say was, in order to get through life, you need to know one good song on the guitar or piano, one good joke, and one good card trick. And sure enough, I learned that. And it's the same advice I've given to my children. So I'm giving you the same advice. Yeah, get one good song on the guitar or piano, learn one good card trick, and one good joke. The joke happens to be the Pancho Villa joke. I'll tell you one day what it is.
No.
Shelley's heard it about 3,000 times. So it's a good joke.
Oh, you say.
Okay, question 4. She talks about San Lazaro and the artifacts that he found there. I thought this was a really great question because it brought out something. Anytime it brings out something in Fenn, whether it's helpful to me or not, but it's interesting. Is there a mystery you would have loved to have solved by finding an artifact which told its own truth? Which is not quite what she was leading to up here, but it worked for him, and it stimulated a thought. I excavated 5 early Spanish keys at San Lazaro Pueblo, and he would have known that because the Native Americans at that time didn't have the capability for forging, so they were still making things out of stone versus metal, so it would have been very obvious that they were Spanish keys. So logic, that is the thinking side of him, tells me there must have been some wooden trunks secreted in the ruins someplace, which is a really interesting thought because his point down here, if we can find a trunk full of documents, we will rewrite the history of the Southwest, which is absolute genius in the way an archaeologist, I was going to say thinks, but maybe it's the way an archaeologist dreams. Because you always dream about, as an archaeologist, you always dream, as any scientist, I suppose, you always dream about making that one great history-changing discovery. And for archaeologists and historians and anthropologists and paleontologists, that always includes the past. For some scientists, it always includes the future. So I think that's a very normal feeling and an indication of how much he is about what he's learned and the scientific method and the value of research and all those things. I was really impressed with his response because it showed an excitement that I hadn't seen, although you can you can read a lot of that in The Secrets of San Lazaro. Lazaro, how do they say it?
Lazaro.
White people say it. Yeah. Lazaro.
Like Lazarus.
But he's right. He's right. If you had found a trunk full of Spanish documents someplace in those ruins of San Lazaro Pueblo, it would have changed history, and he would have been, responsible for having discovered them and having shared them with the community that would analyze them. So he also mentions my treasure isn't hidden at San Lazaro, although a few searchers, because I know there's people out there that believe it is. My only sense is that this will just reinforce their belief that when he says it's not hidden there, it will convince them even further that it is hidden there. You're going to change that? If all the other searchers besides us was looking around San Lazaro, my life would be perfect. I wouldn't have any competition. So all the searchers, this means that he probably hid it in San Lazaro. Go look there. No, I guess that's terrible.
It's not owned by him anymore. It's private property. Don't go there.
So she asked a question. Numerous searchers are convinced they know what the treasure is and are closed-minded to alternative options. Aren't we all? Because we always believe our solution is now. We've been through, I'm going to say, a dozen solutions in our time for the search, and there's a point at which the investment at Lander, you go like, nope, it's not here, or Pilar, and you go, nope, it's not here. So you go on. I think that's the key to it. But there are people whose solutions they'll stick by hell or high water. And she asks about that. What do you feel? She asks them what he thinks about them. What do you feel causes such blindness or stubbornness? And he uses an interesting comparison. Stubbornness is sometimes confused with tenacity. And that's an interesting point because it's a point you learn in the military. And the military says, this is a Roomba.
Yep.
And it reminded me of somebody that's tenacious, but not stubborn. Mm-hmm. Because when a Roomba starts up, you start it up with your little iPhone thing, your little texting machine. And it starts heading across the carpet. The cat sees it, jumps on it for the ride, enjoys it like this. And then it hits the wall over there. And it bangs the wall 3 times. And then it says to itself, oh, that's a wall. Let me go someplace else. And it turns direction. It does that, vacuums up. The cat enjoys the turn. And it goes someplace else until it hits another wall. That's tenacity without being overwhelmed by determination. The nice thing about tenacity is it enables you to see the big picture. The big picture is to get the carpet vacuumed and to give the cat a ride in the process.
The Roomba is programmed to expect walls.
Oh, even better. And it's got to do something about them, right? It's got to respond to them. Stubbornness is a Roomba that expects the wall, hits the wall, bounces against it 3 times, and says, oh no, I'll get there on the next time. Right? Just give me one more time. Cat, help me out on this. Give me a push. Ooh. And the difference is that it locks you, stubbornness locks you into that small picture, getting through the wall, which may or may not help you.
Stuck in that corner.
Yeah. And tenacity is a characteristic of a good leader, and it's one of the things that you, if you haven't learned it already, it's one of the things that you learn in the military. And the second thing you learn in the military is agility. And so they teach you to be tenacious and get as far as you can on that part of the mission, and then realize when you have to change, what's that old saying? The war plan goes out the window within the first few minutes after the war has started. So you got to have another plan. So I think it's important to remember, unlike the Roomba, stubbornness is not the willingness not to change one's attitude or position on a matter, while tenacity is the expectation that once you hit a wall, you're going to do something about it other than just keep hitting the wall.
Right. Then
oops, I'll go back.
with tenacity, your eye is on the prize, your eye is on the goal. No matter how many walls you hit on the way there, you're going to get around those walls, or you're going to turn around and go a different way. You're going to get the job done. With stubbornness, your eye is not on the wall or the prize or anything else. It's on yourself. I know what I'm doing. I don't need any help.
Right.
Don't talk to me. And I don't care if I'm stuck in this corner. This is where I'm supposed to be. It doesn't help anyone. This is where I'm supposed to be.
And by the way, Forrest just agreed with me because he said, I'm going to find it this summer.
And you'll justify everything that comes your way to fit your parameters.
By the way, I should point out, I own neither a Roomba or a cat. I do have a cleaning lady that comes in on Fridays that does mine.
He does, however, enjoy watching cat videos.
I do watch. That's actually where I got that, watching cats on Roombas. So the most fun thing he said was in the answer 5 when he refers to the stubbornness and talks about avid searchers looking for the treasure.
Which I thought was very positive towards searchers.
Yeah.
He didn't want to call them stubborn or blind or anything else. He wanted to say they're tenacious and they're avid.
Right. Which goes, I think, very much in line with his comment in the Nightline video where he talks about simplicity. Simplify your solution. don't be quite so stubborn about your solution. Look for be adaptable, be flexible, tenacious, but be agile. After I hid the treasure, I went back to that spot.
Never went back.
I never went back. Did I leave that out?
Yes, you did.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I left out the word. It's
You
there.
changed the word,
Oh,
the
sorry.
whole
Yeah.
meaning.
Yeah, we're going to have to, if I could cut that, I would. After I hid the treasure, I never went back to that spot, and now I can't. So there are probably, as I've seen on the forums, a dozen different possibilities that have been mentioned, everything from he's old to he's got a guy in a black Ford sedan following him so he can't leave his house. I mean, it just got progressively more crazy as I watched it. So I'm
They're
going to
watching him from Google Map.
yeah,
Earth,
somebody's watching him on Google Earth.
or pinging his phone.
So back when we lost Paris Wallace, he was interviewed by the Santa Fe New Mexican on what his plan. The Santa Fe New Mexican is the paper in Santa Fe, and they wanted to talk to him about the state of the search in the context of the most recently lost searcher, and they had several quotes from him. When he deposited the cash, Fenn said he made 2 separate trips and one by himself. So we already know. Now he said, and this is Fenn's quote. This is the reporter's quote. This is Fenn's quote. I don't know how I could physically get it. I'm not as agile as I once was. When I walk 50 yards, I have to sit down. And if you've seen him recently, you can tell when we saw him in November at Collected Works, whatever he's experiencing in terms of breathing issues. It came out, I noticed again in his interview with Nightline. So it is probably true that he's past the age where, for whatever reason, not that he needed to, not that he wants to, but for whatever reason, he can't go back and get that treasure. It's still where he hid it. And the other thing is he
Never went back and get it?
never went back to get it. He
That's
didn't
the
say he hid it.
one
That's the
before
next
that.
one. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So, that one, question 6. This one was the one, but she ended up with an East Coast kid. So that's our new
Indian girl.
Indian girl, yeah. Our
Girl
East
from
Coast
India.
kid have become familiar with the Western ways, languages, have to become familiar with the Western ways, languages, and other manner of the Rockies. Is imagination enough? How much knowledge do you think a normal East Coast kid has to have to find your treasure? And I think this is a variation on the little Indian girl theme. He had some interesting responses. He admitted, for example, that he buried his jars, which I think we already knew. And there is no visible sign, which would happen just after a while in any place, whether it's the desert or the mountains. Unless you come right back to it, or unless you have the geographic coordinates, so you're going to have a hard time finding it. None are near populated areas, which makes sense for Fenn. He doesn't want to put them near populated. What you have to figure out is what is the definition of near for him. Landscapes change over time without growing vegetation and blowing leaves, which I thought was interesting because the implication is that the area has deciduous trees in it, because only deciduous trees. And there's some places up above Santa Fe in the on the road to the ski basin where the riparian zone is, and you'll see both. You'll see layers of deciduous as well as coniferous trees. So in the desert, you don't get a lot of leaves. You get mesquite, you get sage, you get, I don't know, other kinds of brush, but they're not leafy objects. So the implication of the leaves is that
We have cottonwoods around here.
yeah, but there you don't. Well, that's true. You know what? You're absolutely right, because there are high desert areas where the cottonwood does survive all those little dry gullies semi-dry gullies between Albuquerque
So you're
and
not going to
Santa
see
Fe.
many of them.
No.
It's very often they'll be driving along, like I-25 or one of the highways, and you see one tree.
Yeah.
And that's
That
it.
one changing green tree that I
Yeah,
take a picture
and
of.
everybody goes, oh, that tree, yeah. Turn at that tree.
But the other implication of him having buried them is he doesn't say that they're in the mountains north of Santa Fe. He could have buried them anywhere. When he says, I'm comfortable with the thought that eventually all 8 will be found, I think eventually is in the context of not his life, but in the context of the Rosetta Stone. That eventually somebody's going to bump into it and realize they have something interesting here as a result of erosion or either wind and water or weather erosion, because that's the only way they're going to be found apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So he also tells the East Coast kid that he needs to know something about Rocky Mountain's geography, and that's because he used geography is interesting because geography is a representation of the physical characteristics of a location. So you'd have to know a little bit about the physical characteristics of the Rocky Mountains, how they're built. When making plans to search my treasure, rocking chair ideas can lead one to the first few clues. And he always makes it a point to define what few is. It's more than one and could be two or three, but not many more.
Well, that was several.
Whatever it is. But he's always...
It was 3.
The implication is that it's never been more than 3, which is interesting to me because up until this point, it's never been more than 2. So he's upped it by 1. That means you could get to Warm Waters Halt, Canyon Down, and the put in below the home of Brown and maybe find that.
Oh, wait, what? Not far, but too far to walk? Is that
not far to
combined
walk.
with,
Yeah.
Is that combined with the canyon? See, we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
So
it could be home of Brown.
So it seems to me that Warm Waters Halt, Canyon Down, and not far but too far to walk, you could find that on a map. And I think we've always said that anyway, haven't we?
Yeah, because we wouldn't go there if we couldn't find that much.
But a physical presence, read that as boots on the ground, is needed to complete this. He used the word solve. I hate that word. To complete the solution. Google Earth cannot help with the last clue. Now, I've already seen on the forums where the interpretation of that line is, well, then you can see all the other clues except for the last clue, which we assume is the blaze, I guess. I don't think that's what he meant here. My interpretation is that you have to be boots on the ground in order to find the blaze so that you can stumble over the treasure or whatever. Okay? Didn't you have a comment on that? No? Okay. So then, of the 6 questions, we go on to question number 7. It's she gives him an option of answering his own question. Is there something special you want to say, or what would you like most to say to the readers, meaning the people that are searching, most of whom are searching for this? Thanks for the opportunity. When I decided to hide the treasure, part of my plan was for everyone to get outside and enjoy the nature. So it's kind of his standard pitch here. Part of my plan was for everyone to get outside, enjoy nature, get healthier, get off your texting machines. Possibility of finding my treasure was incentive enough, which is not true because he's added incentives, 200 feet. You'll find it this summer, et cetera, et cetera. It's not enough to encourage the masses and the masses. He could have put, he didn't say unwashed, thank you. And that has happened beyond my remotest expectations. The chest is still where I hid it. So he used hide and hid twice. To me, that should put to rest the conversation about did he hide it or bury it. I hope every searcher stays safe in the mountains. So I think that was it. For the most part, there was information that was interesting enough for a show, but certainly not enough to make me go rent a all-terrain vehicle and head back up north someplace. We're comfortable with our solution, and I think when
we haven't fully explored it yet, so until we have, we can't discount it.
Yeah, it's easier for us to reduce our solution to where we're at now because we haven't.
Right.
The other places were relatively easy to say, it's not here. This one is harder to say that. So
yeah, we like it, and it's fun to go, so we're going to go.
So what have we got going on this week?
This week, our weekly schedule. Well, today we had our live stream with our open Q&A coming up right after this. Forrest Fenn Memoirs Book Club is Thursdays at 1 o'clock, so be there. And we have some artistic wines to share with you that day. And we're going to tell you more on Thursday, Book Club Day. And of course, Friday, Just the Facts, and that's Fridays at 1 o'clock. And those are my little shorter versions of just simple things to help out new searchers. And
we're doing that, yeah, exactly. It's designed to help new searchers. Most of you who are experienced in these matters should probably find them boring, although you get to...
Not boring.
Okay. Not boring. Fridays at 1 p.m. Okay, good. That's our schedule for the week. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That always looks good to YouTube. That means people are actually liking our things. Subscribe to our channel and receive notifications of live stream activity. You do that by going to gypsyskiss.tv. It'll do a pop-up window to subscribe if you're not already, and then remember to click on the bell.
The bell.
So that you'll be notified of it. You don't click on the bell.
I don't know what this is. This is not sign language. I'm no expert in sign language.
It's a Fitbit bell. Check out our blog at gypsyskiss.com. That's where all our updates and my thinking goes. And finally, follow us on Instagram. That's important because that's where we've been putting up that's what we're using to put up our updates for the coming week. gypsyskiss.live is what you go to when you want to sign on to the live program. Is that it? Oh, why don't you give your pitch again since I have the PayPal button.
Okay. So now that everybody's here, this week on our PayPal account, all our funds for this week are going to go to getting me certified in life coaching, which is an online course. It lasts about 6 months, and I've been saving up for that course. And Toby's agreed that this week's PayPal monies will come to me to help me pay for that course so that I can grow my business as a coach, a relationship coach for men that you can see more about on my channel, thesofterside.me. Check that out if you haven't already. And
would you tell them that you're not leaving a Gypsy's Kiss?
Oh, I'm not leaving. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm having too much fun here with Toby. Plus, we haven't found the treasure yet.
Yeah,
so until I do,
so
until somebody does.
And the deal, not the deal, because I surprised you with this today. For every $1 you guys contribute to the paypal.me/a gypsy's kiss to give Shelley this week, we're going to do it through next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. I'll match dollar for dollar. So between the two of us, I think we can get her to that.
So you can either type this into your browser and go to that page, or you can look at our YouTube channel banner and you'll see the PP for PayPal up on the banner, and you can click where it says donate and it'll take you to that page as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And thank you, appreciate it. I'm looking forward to taking this course.
Okay. I'm going to save that last slide for the end.
Okay, so you want to put this up on the screen?
Oh, yeah. The magic of technology.
Okay, so we're going to put the chat up on the screen and read through your questions. If you have any further questions, go ahead and ask them now. And
don't forget to start your questions with AGK. Shelley's going to go through and say hi to everybody.
So, Man in the Barn is here.
Thank you, Man in the Barn, for being our moderator.
Yes. C Monkeyfication, 11B2P Treasure Finder.
11 Bravo, baby.
11 Bravo.
Hardcore.
2 Papa. I don't know. Michael Elder. Excited to see what you guys have to say about this. Yay, me too. AJ21. Fossilman 123. David Dow. Eric Schmidt. Eric has been very instrumental in helping us to answer questions, to look things up for us when we're in the middle of talking, so that there's answers for everybody about where to find things online, or answers that we're looking for and can't remember. So thank you, Eric.
He sent me an email saying that he likes our Thursday idea with the wine.
Oh, great.
That was very kind of him.
Great.
Lori James. Master at definitions and helping us to understand things.
Oh, Rick
She's very good at that.
From Cincinnati. And let's see, Scott P. He's driving home, so he might not be here right now because he was driving in the rain. Fossilman 123 is in Phoenix. Paul McGinty, Clayton Watson.
Clayton from Texas, our friend from Texas.
Shauna Nim. Treasure Poem.
He's new. I haven't seen that before.
Oh, Crow Dudley. Newbie from Southern Indiana.
Yay! Welcome aboard, Crow.
And he wants to know, could he have some kind of GPS device or even geocaching sites close to the treasure?
We don't think so. We don't know for certain, but we don't think so. The complexity, as you probably are aware of, sooner or later, if you didn't have solar power for them that were constantly providing it what it needed, you'd have to go up and change the batteries, et cetera, et cetera. So we think when he said he walked away from that treasure, we believe that he walked away from that treasure. And that's why he believes it's still there, because nobody has told him otherwise. So, and the other thing too is he doesn't need to know. There's no the worst that could happen is he could say the treasure is still where I hid it. Somebody has recovered it, and they've decided not to tell him. And I think based on what we know about him from the very beginning, he believes that the person who finds the treasure will either let him or the world know that they found the treasure. That's what he's counting on. I don't think he did all that other stuff because I don't think he cares.
I don't know how you'd keep the secret unless you were alone when you found it,
Yeah.
and then you immediately hid it somewhere and never told anybody.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Plus, you got to remember, the other thing too is he was out in the boonies, and if anything, if you're putting up trail cameras and webcams with solar panels for power, sooner or later somebody's going to notice those things are up there. You're just pointing at the
right?
at the blaze.
Treasure's here.
Yeah. So
Michael Cohn, he sent him a card telling him where he was going and what he had found so far.
see, so you better take advantage of that. And make sure maybe you might be the one where his gut feeling is saying that it's going to be out there, that it's going to be found this summer.
Journeyman and Stephen Marilot.
Marilot. He is too old school for GPS. Yeah, I agree with you, Stephen.
Bill Gorman.
Bill Gorman, guts have brain cells. You're right, Bill. Mine, and as you can tell, mine has a lot of brain cells.
Really big brain.
Really big brain cells. Hi, Sandy. Carved either in a tree or a stone, and these people refer to it as the blaze. What do you think? A carving, while similar in as a pictograph, I don't think a carving in a tree has life, longevity, and I think also it is too common. I think if you were to look for, it is far more likely that the blaze is an area where there might be pictographs or petroglyphs not done by him. I don't think Fenn is the kind of guy that's going to leave a marker for you any more than he's going to leave a bunch of trail cameras and webcams up there. I think he told you where to find it. Find the blaze. I don't think the blaze is defined as a big X that he put on there with a spray paint can.
Alan Kay.
Hey, Alan.
Fenn usually says he hopes the treasure is found in 100, 1,000, or 10,000 years. Why does his gut now tell him this summer?
Well, I think we covered that. I think it's the combination of his intuition telling him why not say that, because that doesn't his gut is telling him that. But it's easy at the end of the summer when it hasn't been discovered to say, well, that was a gut feeling. What do I know? I still think he's hoping for at least 100 and more likely 1,000 years. The same as the bells. I don't think he wants this because the longer that treasure lives, the longer the memory of Forrest Fenn lives. Somebody finds it next summer, and Forrest will be out of the limelight by the following summer. It doesn't get him what he wants, which is what it gets him is more searchers out there looking for it, because I guarantee all you have to do is go to the forums and see the conversations about the people making early plans to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and redefining summer.
Redefining Summer,
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good name for a book. Let's write a book called Redefining Summer. Clayton Watson.
What? Okay, Clayton says his gut feeling is a subtle way of saying he has received a signal from a searcher without explicitly acknowledging any particular searcher who has emailed him with correct information. See, Clayton, that I think is the natural conclusion that everybody is going to come to, that somebody has told him this. And then underneath that, you could have written, I think it's me, because that's what we all want to believe, right?
Right.
We all want to believe that somebody has sent him some kind of signal. He's watched Toby and Shelley's videos on the Cimarron, and that tells him that somebody's close. It doesn't even have to be an email. He could just hang out in the forums and you want it to be you. It could be it could be somebody else, but you want it to be you. And I think that's part of the inspiration that he put out there when he said it. Clayton Watson, I agree. Wait. Bill Gorman, an infantry is little compared to Fenn with a fish and two hooks. Okay. Thanks, Bill, bringing up his little place there. Treasure Palm. That's not a question, is it? Okay, none of those
B
are for us.
Cross, hello.
Hi, B Cross. Thanks for your donation last week.
And
Your two
Maestro?
donations, right?
Maestro?
Oh,
I haven't seen
hello?
that before.
Bill Gorman, no questions. AGK, do you know if Forrest Fenn ever took Eric Sloan for a ride in his plane? We do not. It would have, I think it would have been interesting because it happened in a period before Fenn was really flying. Sloan died at the age of 80 in 1985. So it would have had to have happened before that. And I don't know how active a flyer Fenn was back in the 70s or 80s. I think he was busy with his business. He could have, because to me, as we've said in the past, one of the people who died who had shared the secret of his special place could have been Sloan. So he could have flown with Fenn to do that. But we don't know for certain one way or the other. That's one of those questions that I have to answer either yes, no, or we don't know. We don't know. Let's see. Thank you, Maestro. We love that you're here.
Joey Perro
Joey
says
Perro
hello.
from New York City. Joey, thank you. Joey's one of the guys that helps us when the Russians attack us.
Yeah. There we go. Yay, wine.
Yeah, you were a grunt. I know
I went
11B
too
is
far.
a grunt. I went to
What happened?
AIT with a bunch of. I went to AIT with a bunch
Wait a
of.
minute. Where am I?
Did
I go too far?
Yeah, you did.
Too far down or too far up?
Go up a little. There you go.
Okay.
And two kitties, love your show. Greetings from hi Joey. AGK, Toby and Shelley, when you go out hunting for Forrest treasure chest, how long do you devote to an area or spot on average? It varies depending on financing, basically. We spent 6 days in Lander.
Mm-hmm.
We spent 5 to 8 days in Pilar.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how far away it is,
Yeah.
too. Pilar
were-
we can drive to and home again in the same day.
Right.
So we can do a day trip to Pilar. But
Cimarron is a long weekend.
Cimarron,
and we've
yeah.
been there several times. Salida was 5 days. Browns Canyon.
About 4 or 5 days, yeah.
4 or 5 days. We haven't been back because we got there and went like, no, this isn't Fenny enough for. So it varies and it depends on how far it is. You know, we still have things that we have to do, even as treasure hunters. There's other things that we have to accomplish.
But once
including-
we're out there, say that we will spend the day, say when we were in Tolby Canyon or Tolby campgrounds, we were there 2 days, 2 full days, right? But part of that
and
time,
I was there two times before that.
part of that time we spent hiding our own treasure.
Right.
Part of that time we spent digging up something shiny. Remember that? We dug up, it ended up being like a guardrail that somebody had run off the road. And it kind of got buried. And
Right. At the
there
end,
were
it was
car
actually the
parts
end of the trout waters.
Yeah.
That's the bridge where the trout waters are. And we got fascinated by the fact that all the foliage was smashed down. And we realized, and so we started digging and stuff like, whoa, what's going on here?
What is this?
And it was just like somebody had wrecked a car and left parts there, I guess.
Yeah, and then
for
part
lack
of the guardrail was still,
still hidden in the
buried
ground.
there.
So it
And
was a lot of fun. But yeah, the closer, like Shelley's, I'm not going to repeat it. But it all depends on the distance and how much time we have in between. Denver,
And our energy.
our
I mean,
trip to
we'll try to spend a whole day out, but sometimes the weather's not good.
Yeah. So our trip to Denver, our original plan was to head out on Wednesday, come back the following Monday, and by Thursday we were going like, there's nothing here, we're turning around. So,
Yep.
the famous Bill Gorman, the infamous Bill Gorman.
$5. Oh, £5. Who's
That
that?
had to be Adam.
I'm like, wait, there's no name. Yes, it's
Adam
Adam
Foddy.
Foddy. Hi, Adam.
Thank you. Hi,
Thank
Adam.
you.
Thank you. And if you have don't forget, if you have a question, ask it. Dan Kirk. AGK, are you still considering the geologic theory, meaning the coal? Yes, we are. We think brown is a color, a reference to the color brown, and that takes us back to what's that called? It starts with an L. I can't believe I forgot it. Lignite coal. Yeah. So the answer to your question is yes. We think it's still a geologic solution.
Cindy, guess.
And by the way, it's our solution includes that when we go to Cimarron, we can point you to where that is. Where do we have Cindy? Dan Kirk, are you still?
We just did
okay.
that one. Yeah.
AGK, Cindy Guess. Hi, Cindy. When are you headed back to search in Cimarron? As soon, because we need to be the people that find it this summer, because Fenn told us that.
Are we redefining summer like we are?
We are going to go back as soon as the weather clears. There is no vested interest in us going out and searching through that area. So although I have to admit, New Mexico, I don't know what it's been like up there, but none of the ski basins have opened. I haven't seen one single advertisement on TV for Taos. So none of the ski basins have opened. So I think it's going to be, my guess is that at this point we're going to have a very mild winter, which means an early spring. And as soon as the snow clears up there, because some of those roads close up. There are some roads that they just close during the winter season.
We want a long day, so the sun will have to be up longer.
We'll have
it
to be in
has
daylight
to be warm
savings.
enough for us to be outdoors for most of the day. So those considerations.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on the weather and how.
I would say,
how it goes.
I think daylight savings time is March 25th this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it'll probably be, we'll probably, if I can check and see if there's snow on the ground, if there isn't snow on the ground, we may go up a weekend in April just to kind of do a pre-recon. So
Yeah.
short Saturday, Sunday kind of thing.
Because I'm going to be traveling early May.
I'm going to the East Coast in mid-April.
So yeah, we have to work around our own personal schedules as well.
AGK, you should start your own wine club. As if what? I wasn't busy enough. I'm trying to retire here.
Wine club, book club.
Yeah.
Includes wine. It's a wine book club.
Yeah, and we have a great story for you this week, and we're going to tell you.
But feel free to send us your wines if you have a favorite.
And you'd like us to try it on the show.
I don't know if that's even legal.
No, that's probably
not legal.
I don't
Sorry.
think so. We don't know. Let's see. AGK, you have given us your interpretation of the word few, but what is your interpretation of the word first? Thank you and great job.
Casey
Neistat, my favorite.
There we go.
The word first. I can't. So if you're not giving me context, then I would go to the dictionary, and I'm sure Lori can help me here. It is the cardinal version of the word. Is it cardinal when you say first? It is the cardinal instance of the word one. But if I don't have a context, I don't. That's all I can come up with.
First is before anything else.
Except zero.
Well, zero is nowhere.
Yeah, zero, and it's not a number. Yay wine. Join us on Thursday,
That's
Joey.
right.
Yeah, yay. That's how we feel about it. Actually,
And he's
it
in New
makes
York, so he's a couple
makes
hours
it sound
later.
like a lush. For God's sakes, we're not lushes. Thank you, Toby and Shelley. You guys are super. Thank you very much. We appreciate the compliment. I was a grunt, a bunch of grunts. I was only
Nothing
grunt
wrong.
for long enough to get to fulfill the requirements for the agency.
That's almost as good as Gronk.
Have you looked for Jesse Phillips' 1894 gravesite? If you're talking about the one in Cimarron, since somebody notified us about that, we haven't been back. But it's on my list of things to do when we're in Cimarron.
Sometimes it just pops up when I'm trying to do this. Here we go. Okay.
A few is more than two, but not much more than two. Yeah. He's never indicated that it was meant. I think at Moby Dickens, he said it's a few is more than
But
two.
he didn't
but
do
not,
few. He did several.
Oh, that's right.
The word was several.
At Moby Dickens.
Yes.
Yeah. At collected works, he tried to define it. So I'm going to say he's still warning you that it's sooner or later that you can't get to the blaze without boots on the ground. That you can get to a couple of clues on Google Earth. And as I said, this is the first time in 8 years that I've heard him say more than two, right? More than two clues. You get my last name right. Yay. Marilyn. Two biddies in the book. Blaze on a tank. Okay, AGK, Bill Crow. Forrest said after the preacher died that he could retrieve the treasure on his own. Also, he said he can't imagine anybody being within 12 feet and not finding it. It can be seen from that far. Yeah, I remember him saying that in one of the in one of his things. I don't know necessarily I agree with you, Bill, in one of his presentations. Sorry, one of his things. The English language.
Yes.
I'm not sure I agree with you that it can be seen from 12 feet. Our interpretation of that is that you should be able to see a location that is obviously a hiding space from 12 feet. Whether or not you can see the treasure, I think, is a different question. Thank you for asking a question, Bill. Thinks it would be found. Bill is figuring out. Cindy guess Forrest has said that he hid the treasure when the country was in a terrible recession or starting a pretty good recession. Does that conform to your 2003 hiding date or 2010? In the 2000s, the first two depressions we experienced were in 2002, 2003, and then again in 2008 and 2009. So either is possible. Do you think it is in a tree? No, Paul, we do not think it is in a tree. Behind a pine tree? Well, could be, but it's just too easy. I think it's hidden. Putting it behind a pine tree, to me, doesn't qualify as hidden.
No.
AGK, what year did Forrest Fenn sell his plane? The deal started in 2002, but the check that was given to him bounced. So there was a wire transfer, and because the FAA needs to approve these things, the contract or the sale wasn't completed till early 2003. Why do you think two biddies are a clue? Oh, that's okay.
A tree from Rio Rancho.
AGK is in a tree from Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Well,
Rio
no.
Rancho is south of Santa Fe.
Right, way south. Shelley lives in Rio Rancho, by the way. Shelley and her husband.
If it was there, I'd have it already.
Yeah. Rio Rancho is south of Santa Fe. We do not believe the treasure is south of Santa Fe. Two borderline biddies. Hey, we're going to talk about the borderline biddies in our Thursday show.
We are.
Lori's from Salida.
Oh.
Lori,
awesome.
The next time we go up there, we liked it even though we didn't figure the treasure was there.
Do you have like a bed and breakfast in your home where we could stay next time?
What did we stay in? We stayed in the Browns Canyon Hotel, didn't we?
Yeah, it was.
It was okay.
We didn't have hot water. You did. So for you, it was okay.
Did you mention that? Did you tell me that?
Yeah,
Oh,
ours
I
was
didn't realize
tepid.
We like Salida, Lori. Educate PayPal info again, please. Stephen, it's paypal.me/a Gypsy's Kiss. paypal.me/a Gypsy's Kiss. Calazars. Hey, Mike. Eric Schmidt. Michael, there isn't any way you can get into the treasure before just because they're going, I'll snow. Wow,
Rio
AJ. So AJ, Rio Costilla is one of those areas where Warm Waters Halt is geographically precise, and it's followed by a canyon down. So it is one of, I think I mentioned 8. We did a video on this where to find Warm Waters Halt in New Mexico, and I think Rio Costilla was one of them. And I have been up there from the going east long ago because I used to love the trout fishing there. This way you have to get in there from the west, if I remember correctly. It's not an easy drive. It's not an easy road. But yeah, we plan to go up there this summer. It is one of the geographically precise Warm Waters Halt.
It's snowing in Salida.
Oh, see, that's why we're not there. It was beautiful. When did we go?
June.
Yeah. Beautiful.
The water
Brown
was really
bear.
high. $20.
Yay! Who's that?
Wow. Colleen DeBaldo. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. That's very kind. Make sure you get a question in before we close today's show. Let's see. Architect Brown Banks. What have you used a tracking device similar to what they use in finding a lost dog? I don't think that kind of technology existed back then. AGK. One location I feel this is Paul. One location I feel very confident with to see the blaze, I would need to break a rule.
Depends on if it's a law.
We don't break. So yeah, that's the question.
Or
if
rule.
you're breaking a rule, and the rule is I don't usually climb steep mountains, we don't recommend you breaking that rule. If the rule is I'm going to be on tribal land or private property, we do not recommend it.
No.
We don't agree with any solution that is either on private property or tribal land.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Cohen.
David Dow.
David Dow. What are your thoughts on Worth the Cold? I think because it happens to be in one of the stanzas that we believe is outside the scope of the clues, it may be a hint, and it could be a reference to the fact that when you're in the mountains, it is generally more cold than it is warm, and that there is a possibility that you may have to cross a stream. Now, there's a big difference between crossing the Rio Grande during the spring runoff and the Cimarron sometime in September. It's crossable. You'll need waders if you don't want to get wet. We were in Browns Canyon on the Arkansas River in Salida, and I watched a fisherman trying to get the other side. He was wearing chest-high waders, and he was up to his chest-high waders in water, and we thought there was a possibility that the treasure could be on the other side up that, what's it called, Railroad Gulch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, $10. Oh, sorry.
This is going to here. Oh, you're making out like a bandit, aren't you? Wow. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for doing that. And don't forget to ask your question.
Stephen Marilot.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. Is that his second one?
$10. No, that was the first one from him.
So in the cold may be a hint and a reference to being in, mountain springs, but I don't think it means necessarily the treasure. I think the clues precede look quickly down your quest to cease.
And you have to remember it has to rhyme.
Yeah.
What other things could rhyme with gold? Mold. Beware the mold. Fold. Your map to fold.
Is it worth the mold? Cold is a nice. It fits.
Yeah,
right?
it fits.
So gotta make poems. I missed that 8,700 feet. I don't know. Fossilman, that's not a question for us. I only have one lung. My O2 machine crapped out in less than 200 feet of where I wanted to look and severely cut myself and had to retreat in heavy rain. Michael, that was heroic. Thanks on the plane info. Let's see. Cow, I hate the Glacier National Park.
Oh.
Okay, so could we not do these things on our channel? AGK, thanks for the hard work. Good luck, Shelley. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. It is work for us. We enjoy it, and we like doing this every week. AGK, do 3 jars of cloves plus mammoth plus Clovis points equal Clovis.
Why
Bill,
did the mammoth get in there?
Bill, I don't know. Bill, you know that my answer for these things is anything is possible. You have to go with it, and it has to turn into evidence, and that evidence has to turn into a solution. And I know you have one for you. Am I going to put mammoths with cloves to get Clovis? If it doesn't help me with my solution, then no.
Eric Schmidt?
Follow up on Worth the Cold question. You find it interesting that Forrest forgot the poem at the point when at the Moby Dickens video. The rest of the poem he said from memory. Yes, I did, because I was there filming it, of course, and I actually was the one. I think I was the one to get the book open so that he could read it, or I had it someplace so that he could actually read it. But it struck me that what was important to him was the 9 clues, and then the other 2 stanzas, which we believe are simply legalese. They indicate that what he wants to be able to say in terms of transferring title of the poem. Title of the treasure to you. So I did find that interesting, and I found it a confirmation of where his focus was, and that was the 9 clues.
Thank you again, Stephen.
Again?
Well, no, I just meant. I thank him once.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
him again.
It will be worth a bronze chest. Joey Perro. Hear me all and listen good. Moby Dickens, he said he read this line twice. Watch the video and see him do that. Yes, go watch the Moby Dickens video. Again and again.
Yes.
AGK, do you think there is significance to the poem mentioned, brave and in the wood, with my treasures bold, no place for the meek is motif? We've thought about that. We do believe that no place for the meek actually has relevance in terms of the 9 clues. It certainly fits with a couple of the solutions we have. The others, I'm not sure, again, because they're placed after what we believe the 9 clues to be, maybe hints, but it strikes me that when you get up to these places, you're going to realize that you're in the cold, that you're in the wood, all of these things. It seems to me that brave, and in the wood, treasures bold. The motif, I think, if there is a specific motif, it is that you're on an epic and or heroic adventure. And he wants you to feel that way. And when you're up there and you're looking for that stuff and you're finding deer bones that have been torn up by bear and dragged all over the place, you do feel kind of epic and heroic. Not quite the Odysseus and the Trojan Wars heroic, but you do feel that way. And I think that's part of the art of his inspiring you to go out there and find that out, to be adventurous and to be bold and to go out and look for this treasure. So I think that's all part of it. And in that sense, yes, I would say it was a motif. Whether or not they impact the clues, I think, is a different question. Do you think there's significance to the poem? Okay. Spending Toby's cash. Oh, is that what's going on here?
Yes.
Is that where I'm matching the? I said I'd match the PayPal.me, not what's going in, because this goes into This goes into our YouTube account.
That's right.
I was thinking in the wood might mean on target. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if it means necessarily on target, but I think he's just reinforcing what he's. Would you give the treasure away if you found it with someone else's solution? If you look at our comments in the description, one of the caveats is don't share your solution with us. If you make the mistake of sharing your solution with us, it becomes our solution. We take ownership of it. And the simple fact of the matter is you'll never know if we find the treasure. That's the whole point of, if you look at our video called What We'll Do When We Find the Treasure, nobody will ever know anyway, whether it's our solution or anybody else's.
Or where we found it.
Yeah. I had one bear follow me on second 2 words, Bubba. Bear spray. Or at least a 9mm. Do you think he has a tracking device in the treasure box? Crow, I do not think so. You're a very high-tech kind of guy, Crow. Fenn is not. Fenn is not a high-tech kind of guy. His position on the matter is he hid it in a place that was special to him, and he hopes that you go looking for it. And he said he can't go back now. And ultimately he's going to pass away, and it's not going to make any difference if he put these devices in them, because he's not going to know anyway.
Plus he told Lorraine that initially back in 2013, 2012.
Which one?
The one we talked about last week.
2012, yeah.
That he told her, I won't
No,
know
I'm sorry,
if somebody
2011.
finds it. I won't know if somebody
Right,
finds the
yeah.
treasure. So that indicates no, he didn't have a tracking device of any kind.
If you look at the interview, the 2011 interview of Lorraine Mills of Forrest Fenn on Report for Santa Fe, in that video, in that interview, he says he won't know if somebody doesn't tell him, he won't know if the treasure has been found.
I think we're good. And you have a grandkids to pick up today, so.
Oh, we got to get going. Oh, yeah. I do.
Yeah.
All right.
So we better cut this out.
Okay, yeah, so the
We're
date
good.
science. Okay, so I'm going to switch back for just a second. Okay, we're switching out of the Q&A, guys, so I'm not going to see any additional questions. Thank you very much for those of you that contributed to Super Chat. That money is going to Shelley's certificate fund. I suppose I'll have to match that too. But if you really want to help her, if you have the rest of the week to help her, go to paypal.me/Gypsy's Kiss. Any contribution you make until Tuesday at 1 o'clock next week goes directly to her, and I'll match it dollar for dollar. So,
Franklin, make sure you show up on Thursday for book club. So we're going to be
get those
talking
questions.
specifically about what chapter? Chapter 1?
Well, he doesn't number his chapters, but it's chapter 1, the one about the borders.
So that's what we'll be studying on Thursday. So be here Thursday at 1 o'clock for book club. We're going to talk about what's considered to be chapter 1.
Yeah.
And we'll be doing a little bit of a study on that. And then we'll take questions directly related to chapter 1 only.
Right. We're going to stick. Yeah. Keep in mind that when we do those shows, we're going to try and limit everything, the conversation, to that particular chapter, so that when we highlight it in our YouTube channel, people can go there and
So
see
go
what
ahead
that
and read
chapter
that in the next couple of
is. What's
days
it called?
so that you're
Something
prepared.
great literature? It's on literature. It has the word literature in it. I can't remember that.
I don't remember.
Okay. PayPal.me, a Gypsy's Kiss. All the money this week goes to Shelley, and I'll match it dollar for dollar. So I have, for those of you that have stayed this long, I have a viewer challenge for you this week. And the viewer challenge is, in the comments below, write your most creative Forrest Fenn question. Okay? That does not include things like, where did you hide the treasure, Forrest? That's not the kind of question I'm talking about here.
Something you think he might actually answer.
Right, that's the key. No pre-ramble, that means no preamble. It has to start with one of what, where, when, who, how, and I'll even give you why, although as a journalist I don't usually ask the why question. I'll even give you why, but it's got to start with that. There can't be compound questions like where did you go and who was with you when you went. It has to be a single question. Shelley will pick the best 6. Oh, I just took you out of focus.
Oh.
Shelley will pick the best 6 and send them to Fenn. And the reason that Shelley is going to do that is because I can guarantee you if I send them to him, he's not going to answer them. And if you're not sure how to do all of this, go to our video, and we'll put a link in it down below once this goes up on YouTube, called How to Ask Fenn a Question. It reiterates all my recommendations.
Where should they post their comments? In the comments below, they're going to put their question in the comments.
Yeah, in the comments. And you have to wait until this video goes live because YouTube processes it. So it's about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. But YouTube will process this, and once the comments open up, you can put your question in there and precede it with Fenn question. Fenn question, : only one question per comment line. If you have multiple questions, use multiple comment lines. Okay? Shelley will pick the best 6. So if you want to ensure that she'll pick your question, go to paypal.me and make a big donation.
Yay.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
I got to go pick up my grandkids because my son, the tinsmith, is traveling, and I got to go pick up the grandkids from school.
So thank you so much for your questions. Thank you for watching and being here with us today. And we will see you on Thursday. And for Gypsy's Kiss the Vlog, I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.